But in 1975, we did the same thing in a place called Vietnam. And I said something on one of my tweets, and somebody got very upset with me and going, Jesus Christ. Here we have what's going on in Afghanistan. I think basically the end of American democracy as I see it. But also I think about I don't know if it's millions, but the millions of people who have died, wounded, the trillions we have spent out there. And this Biden administration just pulls the plug on them. And as a U.S. Marine, you have no idea how much that hurts. One person, have you ever killed anybody? I said, I mean, what the hell do you think we do? What the hell do you think we do? Because there's people out there trying to kill us. Some snowflake got all upset saying I'm using vulgar language. Oh my God. And meanwhile, millions of people will start to die now because once we pull out, anybody who supported the U.S. will be either murdered or put in what they call concentration camps to reorient you. And Biden doesn't even know how many people are out there. How many Americans are still out there, plus the people that supported us. Afghanistan, Kabul is a big place. I've never been there, but I've seen pictures. It's a big place. So the track down of people who supported America in a stupid war that we should really never have been in, but we can say the same thing about Vietnam. But what all this proves to us is that we don't learn from history. We just keep making the same mistakes because of one reason. War is profitable. We make a lot of money at war, weapons and all this. So today we have a very special show. It's a very good friend of mine. His name is Ryan. We cannot use his face. He is a Marine who's completed 11 combat deployments as an infantry Marine. And the reason we cannot use his face is because if you're good at what you do, you get promoted into other, let's say, divisions of the U.S. government. And so his face, his identity, and his real name cannot be used because after 11 combat deployments, he has a couple of people who don't like him. But what he's been doing is what we call covert or clandestine. So I'll just give you a hint. When I was leaving Vietnam in 1973, an agency called Air America, AKA the CIA, approached me and said, would you fly for us? And I said, the CIA? And they wanted me to fly, first of all, because I'm Asian, they wanted me to fly in Thailand, or secondly, in Angola. Yeah, one more thing about the Rich Dad Radio Show, we don't bring college professors on here talking about how the war should be fought. We actually, I was there in Vietnam, and Ryan, who's a lot younger than I am, was also there in the longest war of American history, which we just lost. One more thing you may not realize, Afghanistan is more than just Afghanistan. It symbolizes who controls the world. And as you know, China just joined forces with those guys in Afghanistan. So I hate to say this, and I don't mean to sound unpatriotic, but it's the end of the American empire. That's what it symbolizes to me. Because as Marines in Vietnam, we were doing our best to stop them in the Far East, but we didn't do it. We lost Vietnam. While it's still fresh in everybody's minds, if you can look at some of the footage from Afghanistan, you'll see it in the eyes. The Taliban, in their eyes, want to fight. You can see it. I mean, I would be terrified of those guys. But you look at the Afghan guys, all they want to do is go to McDonald's and run. I mean, it is so sad what America does when we try to buy patriotism, we try to buy loyalty. And as somebody accused President Bush of it, they were trying to nation build. But people forget the history of it. The Taliban are a derivative of the Mujahideen who kicked the Russians out of their country. I think it's called the Parrot's Beak or something like that. The people that control that part of the world control the world. So now the Chinese have jumped in there. They're going, hey, buddies, we're going to give you everything you want. So naturally, the Taliban wants to fight. I mean, am I correct on the Mujahideen or becoming Taliban? I hate this, like I'm going to tell you my little war story is I got in trouble. I was in a carrier off of Vietnam. And I was watching the NVA, North Vietnamese Army, run south. And I saw the South Vietnamese Army run south also. And I remember sitting on the carrier in the ready room going, when you see it, when you see cowardice, it's the most disgusting thing you can see. I remember asking my colonel, I said, Colonel, why is it their Vietnamese fight harder than our Vietnamese? And that's what's going on right now. hate to say Afghanistan, and never forget this whole thing with the Taliban really came to light in September 11th, 2001, I think it was. And it was by a guy named Osama bin Laden, who wasn't even from Afghanistan. He was from, I believe, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And he was a rich guy from a rich family. And they finally take him out in Pakistan someplace. So this is really not just going on in Afghanistan. The spread of what we call communism or Marxism is infiltrated the entire world, including the U.S., especially through our academic system. So ladies and gentlemen, that's why the Rich Dad Company exists, is I always keep asking the question, why don't we teach money in schools? Because they don't want us to know that. It's a way of keeping the revolutions going. So the thing it does too, like you're talking about the Northern Alliance, our allies, it just sort of cuts the guts out of them. They say, you know, we've been fighting for all along, and you're saying adios. I mean, I just cannot believe, like when I called Biden a pussy and I got all this hate mail for that, I'm going, what else would you call him? Communist? I don't know what else you would say. He just said to the enemy, come get us, we're gone, screw you. But to our friends, he said, screw you too. So anyway, Ryan, that's my point of view. Please go on about leadership and whatever you want to talk about, because I'm so irate. I have too many bad memories coming back to me of friends I lost, guys who never recovered. And so this withdrawal, you know, I feel right now for those guys who are Afghanis who supported us. We come, you know, like I'm coming out with the book, my book, Capitalist Manifesto, which is in contrast to the Communist Manifesto. But at the academy, we had to study what happened in World War II, because that's when it really shifted. And there was a guy named General Patton. He's one of the greatest, he's a West Pointer, he's one of the greatest generals ever. And from our point of view as a Marine, Patton was sold down the river by Eisenhower and FDR. That was our leadership. So it's politics is a nasty game, but you know, if we had listened to Patton, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. He would have just taken all the way back to Russia. But we have great fighters, great military people, but very weak leaders. And they're going to lead the next war when there is a next war. I'll just quickly say, if my roommate on the carrier was Lieutenant Bergman, he came out Lieutenant General Bergman. And I asked him, because we would have long discussions at night in Vietnam. He says, too many of our generals are bunker bunnies. They're not on the front line, whereas Patton led from the front. And if you can understand the difference of that some generals lead from the front, but most are hiding in the bunker bunnies. That's why we're getting our asses kicked out there. And that's why when I use the word Biden as a pussy, and all people get so upset because I use politically incorrect language, that's all an effect of communism, the censorship of free speech. And that's what happens when Patton didn't stop them, you know, just didn't take the Russians all the way back to Moscow. And so that's what's happening in America today. We just keep getting pushed back further and further and further. And in the 1930s, it infected our academic system.
Small ebook, big impact, The Wealth Tree. The only 4 ways that will make you financially free forever. Download it here for free.